an amount necessary or sufficient to have a significant effect or to achieve a result. This is critical mass.
Greetings, my fellow human beings on our precious planet Earth. This is Pamela Tartar, and you're listening to Critical Mass on Pure Momentum Network. So happy to be with you again this week. I know it's been a week since we've been together, and I hope you've been enjoying the spring coming up. I've heard from different people around the country about the blooms and the different colors and the beauty that's coming up. So I trust that you're paying attention and realizing that you're a part of that growth and that beauty and that blooming. You are a part of the same natural order as those beautiful blooms and blossoms. Last week, we talked about transhumanism in the first hour, and then in the second hour, we continued with transhumanism. And then I finished up with a statue of Baphomet on the Oklahoma Capitol. And I've had quite a few discussions about that since then, so I'm sure that a few people listened to it and got thinking about it. Today, in hour one, we're going to talk about psychopathy, where it originates. There are the bloodlines, and then there are psychopaths by choice. And then in hour two, we're going to talk about Dr. Hare's 40-year study on psychopathy and the list he put together to help us spot psychopaths. So that's what our show is going to be about today. And I know that doesn't seem very uplifting at the first thought that we're going to talk about psychopaths, but since they are everywhere, and since people do not know they are there and do not know what they are, that makes us even more vulnerable. And that is exactly what psychopaths like, because they are predators of every kind. And they're constantly on the look for vulnerability. Where is your weakness? Where is it going to be easy for me to attack you and be successful? So we need to know what it is that we're dealing with here. And we are dealing with it. It is here. And as I develop this show, you will see very clearly that the programs have been in place to get us to be even more vulnerable and to move us into a place that we accept psychopathy as part of our natural world. And it is not natural. It is not human. In order to be a psychopath, you must give up your humanity. And I have always said that. And I've talked about how there are beings amongst us that look just like us, you know, with the two eyes and the two ears and the nose and the mouth. But you can't see where the real issue is different, and that is in the brain. And we're going to talk about that. And some of it comes through blood, genetically, and some of it comes by choice and how we've been coerced into choosing to be inhumane rather than to be in alignment with our true nature. And it has been a true program. And my goal is to share with you how the programming has happened and start way back so you can see it and see how it has built and how the programming layers have happened to pull us further and further away from who and what we are as human beings, until the point will come when we are no longer human beings. And that means that the human race is exterminated at that point. And it is my awareness that this is the goal of the opposition, which is a machine at the top, and it does run programs. The positive part of having this awareness and this information is that we will see and we will recognize psychopaths for what they are, and we will have the understanding, and I invite you and encourage you to study this. It is extremely important. We will have the capacity then to not comply with psychopathy in all of our systems. All of our systems are run by psychopaths, and they are set up to make us even easier prey for the psychopaths who are against all life. So the positive point is that when we have awareness, we can remove ourselves from being the prey and be aware of what's going on and not look and not be vulnerable and easy. Because I have experienced this. My husband and I have experienced this during the tornado and shortly after. We saw some beautiful, beautiful human compassion and empathy and sympathy and people acting out of their true nature as human beings. We also experienced the opposite, the psychopaths, the con artists, those that will look you in the face and say, oh, I'm going to treat you just like you were my sister, while they're further causing you damage. And we must know who these people are. We must know how to recognize them. And that's the positive part of this. We do have the power. We absolutely have it. I say that every show because it's the truth. But we don't have the power if we don't know we have it. Because what good is it? What good is it to have power in me when I don't know where it is and I can't use it because I don't know where it is? I'm going to tell you that another place our power is in being aware of the predators that are set out against us. And I'm talking about against us in every way. And not just the obvious wars and the murder, but also just for the pleasure of it. And we'll talk about that. And it has been proven by scientists and by doctors that have studied the brain. And we'll get into that later. But the positive part is that we must mature and we must see what's really happening. Now, as a child, we didn't have to know how much the electric bill was and the car payment and the house payment. As children, we weren't supposed to know that. We were supposed to have a protected place to be and to mature and to unfold. And those of us that had good parents experienced that just the way it's supposed to be. But as we grow up, we have to realize, oh my word, it does cost something to have electricity, and it does cost to have a home and a car. And that's where we are now. We must grow up to see what is real, not virtual, not a game, but what is real, and to deal with it. And that is part of our unfolding into maturity and developing in our humanity. Our world is being governed or ruled by psychopaths. I know people say that, but it is absolutely true. And I want to say it again. Our world is being governed by psychopaths. And really, it's not governed at all. It's ruled and dictated. We have been conquered and we have been subjugated to the predators, the psychopaths. And I'm going to show you that we have. Very few people know this and know that our programming is so thorough that most Americans think we are free. And we absolutely are not free. We are programmed to believe. We are, that word with a lie in the middle of it is such a clue. Well, like the frog in the water, gradually increasing the heat so we won't realize what has happened. That's how we've been programmed. A little bit at first, and then layer upon layer, and then more boldly and more boldly in our face now. I will start at the beginning, of course. Where did psychopaths begin? Well, the opposition to all life is machine-like. I call it the machine a lot. This machine is not organic or biological. It assimilates everything for its hive machine. I can't say hive mind because mind denotes biology, but hive programs maybe, hive machine. This machine is not creative. It has no ability to create. But once something is created, it sets out to change it, making it opposite the original creation. One of the reasons I call it the opposition, it is clearly opposite all life. The opposition to all biological life, the machine has had 100,000 or more years, and probably much, much more, many, many more years, to watch us and spy on us, gathering all details and information of every detail of our nature as a human being, our natural responses, our natural inquisitiveness, our abilities to problem solve, where our strengths lie and where our vulnerabilities are. Generation after generation, this information, this data has been gathered on us. Now, it's so blatant that we have this huge, I don't even know how big it is, building in Utah to store trillions and trillions of pieces of data on every human being. I mean, everything. Simple things that we can't even figure out why they want to know. Well, this data is for this machine at the top so that more programming can be made to pull us further from our true nature. And by gathering all of our communications and all of our actions, this machine can figure out where it needs to go next. This invasion of our privacy provided the opposition machine the data for all the programs that go against our powerful nature. And it's been happening generation after generation, hundreds of thousands of years. This data is so complete that it seems that the programs that are running our world are natural. It's not natural, it's virtual, it's the matrix. And it is so complete and so detailed, not because the opposition is intelligent, but because all the information it has gleaned and gathered from us, from the human beings themselves, on how we act and react and respond. And it makes the programs that have been put in place seem natural, and they are absolutely opposite of our true nature. And that's what the virtual world's about, is to get us to accept the virtual world in place of our natural world. And we're experiencing it now. We are existing and surviving. We are not living our lives as we were naturally created to do. I talked in an earlier show about what happened when the Watchers left their place in the natural order, and they punctured a hole in our protective shield, and that allowed for other beings that are against us, that are predators, to enter against the natural order. Before the Watchers punched a hole in our shield, we didn't have this. We didn't have the negative beings here. There was a natural order that was safe for us to mature in and unfold in our natural rate of speed, and in accordance with our true nature, of course. The offspring of the Watchers and the human women were Nephilim, and we've talked about them. And all the groups here against the natural order were assimilated into the hive machine and became part of the programs and the matrix. Now, the Nephilim, I am aware, are present here now. Their bloodlines are here, and they are the ones governing us now. The presidents and the kings and the leaders are part of that bloodline, and people talk of that bloodline, and it is real. Those beings, the Nephilim, the bloodlines, they look like regular humans because the difference is in their brain where we can't see. They are here now, and they are inhumane. They are not human. I mean, when Prince Charles can speak to his people and tell them not to take hot baths, that they need to take fewer baths and use less water, when he has many, many palaces and many, many bathrooms, and he can take as many hot showers as he wants. But these bloodlines are psychopaths. So they are predators, and they know, and they truly do know this, that they can take advantage of us because we are human and we have an amazing nature of compassion and empathy and sympathy. And when we look at these psychopaths, they look just like you do and just like I do. On the outside, they look just like us. So we treat them, we deal with them, we listen to them as if they were like us. And they absolutely are not. And if you listen to them today, you will hear it. And after this show today, I trust that you will even be more aware of who and what a psychopath is and can spot them more easily, because it is urgent that we do. It's part of maturing and unfolding and being responsible for ourselves and removing ourselves from always being the prey, always being easily taken in our vulnerability, because it has often been said knowledge is power. And it is, especially if you use it. If you just know something and then don't use it, well, there's no power there. The Nephilim in these bloodlines are cannibals. They are perverts of every kind. And we'll talk about some of that later on. The psychopaths and the other beings that have chosen to be psychopaths are vampires. They are real blood vampires, and they are energy vampires. They harvest energy from human beings' emotions. I have literally seen this as it was happening. I am also aware of other times. Around the holiday season, it's a huge time of harvesting our energy. And if you can stand back from it and watch it happen, you can see us being ramped up to put off all of this wonderful, wonderful energy of family and feeling good and buying gifts and celebrating. And there are entities that harvest that energy. And when they're finished with the harvest after the new year, there is a letdown and there is a depression and there is the reality of, oh my God, I spent too much money, or wasn't that awful what she said or he said, and at the dinner table this happened and that happened. You can see it, and you can be aware and not participate in that next time. And it has been set up as a program on purpose, and it has worked very, very well. And we are the resources that these vampires, these energy vampires, harvest. It is our energy. And so during that time, I do my best to stay as flatline as I can and not feed these entities. I do not want them around me. I do not want them feeding on me. And of course, since I know that religion is all religions are part of this programming, I don't participate in any of that. I do have a winter celebration. And I make it clear that is what I'm celebrating. And we do need to celebrate life. We don't have enough celebrations, in my opinion. And the ones we have are to harvest our energy, which is horrific. We need to wake up to this so we can stop it. The bloodlines of the Nephilim who are present today, they walk among us, and they are the perverts of our world. And what does pervert mean? It means opposite nature. nature has been perverted. And you see this today. It's most obvious among the pedophiles, and how all around the world the light is being shown on leaders and rulers and royal families that have had such a history of pedophilia and murder. And this is not an accident, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact, and it's being proven right now in courts in Brussels. And that's another show, but you can look it up. These bloodlines are the rulers down through history, and of course, still today. And you can go back and see it. And that's why when you name off our presidents, you can look back, and somewhere back in there, they share the same bloodline. This is a provable thing, and you do not believe what I say. You look this up for yourself. And since we do have technology and everyone has a computer at their fingertips, you can look this up for yourself and prove it for yourself. Of course, these bloodlines are born that way. Their brains are different, and their nature is different. I do not call them human beings because they are inhumane. They are outside of humanity. And I know this. This isn't something that I'm surmising. I know this. And I invite you to know this, because that will be part of your power against being prey, which we are prey to these beings. They're not human. And I don't care how many times they look just like somebody that you know is a human being. They are not. They look like us. And I often say that there's more unseen than is seen by the physical eye. And this holds true with the bloodlines. Where their difference is somewhere that our physical eyes cannot see. But that is why I pull us toward knowing the other parts of ourselves. You know, we have an energy body and a mental and an emotional and a spiritual body. And I've just left one out. Let's see. It is the energy body, the spiritual body, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. We have all those parts of us. And if we only use the physical, we're going to be prey, because we're not seeing what we can see if we use the other parts of us. Because when a psychopath is interacting with us, we have the ability to know that, because we have feelings. We have our energy body where the vibration of that person is not resonating with a human being's vibration. It is discordant. It is different. And you feel it. But often we ignore it because why? Because we have not been taught to look at the other parts of us and to respect them and to recognize them and to take in their information, because they're constantly giving us information. You say, well, it feels funny and something's not right, but gee whiz, I can't figure out what it is. Well, what we should do is go to the next part. What am I feeling? Do I feel dread? Do I feel death? Do I feel anger? What am I feeling? What are my emotions here? And then mentally we can process and say, this isn't right. This person doesn't act right. When we were at the funeral the other day, they acted disconnected and like they were agitated to be there. It just wasn't the way everybody else was acting. We get the information. We don't know how to interpret it because we don't recognize the parts of ourselves that give us that information. My message for years has been to get to know ourselves. That's where the power is. And that's why hundreds of thousands of years have been put into programming us against going into ourselves and learning about ourselves. These bloodlines hate humanity. I can think of one of these bloodline beings who said publicly, and you'll remember it too when I say it, that he wants to return to Earth after he dies this time. He wants to come back as a virus and kill off a lot of humans because there are just too many humans on the Earth. That's a psychopath. It doesn't take much to figure that out. And we were all shocked. But see what they're coming out and blatantly telling you who and what they are these days. And I said they were going to do that, and they are doing it now. And we need to be aware of it, and we need to see it. And once we see it, we can recognize it for what it is and then not comply with it, not be a part of it, be opposite it. Because everything in our world right now, which is virtual, it is the matrix, is opposite our true nature as a human being. There are other psychopaths who choose to go against their true nature. And many times these choices rewire their brains, especially when they make the choice to go against their true nature again and again and again. That's how you make a habit, is you repeat it. Well, that's how you change your brain functioning, is repeating it. So every time a person chooses to go against their true nature, their humanity, they are actually making themselves into a psychopath. And you heard me say making themselves. No one else can do this to us. No one can do this. We do this to ourselves. And we can be aware of this and stop it. Do not, under any reason, no matter who is telling you to do it, do not go against what you know is your true nature. How do non-blood lines go against this amazing human nature? How are they coerced to give up their human nature, to be psychopathic and to be inhumane? The data gathered by the machine for hundreds of thousands of years at the very top level of the opposition to all organic life has been used to traumatize and program us away from our true nature. Let's talk a bit about how this has happened. Now, you hear me talk about programming all the time, and I don't just say it so it's just, oh, she says that and go on. I mean it the way it sounds. A program, like a program that's run in a machine. We're not machines. We process information. We are not supposed to run programs. Today, we are existing in and through programs. Now it's time to take a break to hear a few messages of other hosts introducing themselves in their shows. You're listening to Pamela Tartar on Critical Mass, Pure Momentum Network, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hello, everyone. This is Sophia Smallstorm inviting you to listen and share with me on Pure Momentum Network, my show called Speed of Light. We are way too bogged down by darkness, heavy energy, and a sense of futility. We need to move into literally a new kind of momentum. Knowledge is one way to do this, and with knowledge comes freedom from the oppressive state of knowing nothing, which some people think is actually bliss. In my journey, exploring so many subjects and expanding my awareness of all that's going on, I have met amazing, wonderful, fascinating people. These are the people, researchers, many of them, that I want you to meet. They have taught me how to really see, and we have exchanged those ways of seeing together. I think this is really about coming together, how we come together in knowing each other and giving our friendship and support. Pure Momentum is a very different opportunity for me. It's just an inner feeling I have, and I'd like you to be a part of it.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Deborah Taveras of StopTheCrime.net, and I welcome you to Stop the Crime on the Pure Momentum Network. I am committed to exposing the ongoing war being waged not only against all American people, but the entire global population by international central banking cabals and their minions. We will be talking to you about the silent weaponized systems of assaults upon the population, which will help to define what everybody knows: something is terribly wrong. The corporate banking system has created the illusion that we have a legitimate government, and we do not. This corporate structure has gradually taken control of our country's economy, legal system, intelligence, military, scientific, and political operations. Only by understanding your reality will you be able to engage in solutions. And there are solutions. And we must engage. We must help others. We must live in right conduct and not be afraid. Visit us on the Pure Momentum Network and stopthecrime.net.
Welcome back. This is Pamela Tartar, and you're listening to Critical Mass on Pure Momentum Network. Before the break, we were talking about how the non-bloodline psychopaths are coerced into choosing to give up their true nature to be inhumane and psychopathic. And one of the ways is through television programming. And it tells you right up front that it is programming, and it is programming. It's one of the biggest obvious programs that we have running. And of course, you've heard me talk before about the bait and hook weapon that is used against us successfully time and time again. And it's true with TV programming. In the early years, television was beautiful and mostly, yes, for the most part, it was in alignment with our true nature. The comedy was Lucy and Desi, and it was very innocent, and it was truly funny, and it was uplifting. There was no dread and no pulling us away from our true nature. It was really very clean and funny. And, of course, for those of you who remember Red Skelton, one of the things he was known for was being sensitive and sweet and absolutely non-vulgar all the time. And it was just a joy to watch these comedy shows. And we really did laugh, which that's part of our nature. We need to laugh. It's very healing. The Reader's Digest used to have a section that said, laughter is the best medicine. And that could be true because it certainly is a healer. Okay, these are the early days we're talking about now. We'll talk about more recent times later. And of course, the music field, there was Andy Williams and Dinah Shore and some of those talented people, and their music was uplifting, and you could sing along. Oh, yeah, sing along with Mitch. I forgot about him. You could sing along with them, and it was something to look forward to, and it was a great entertainment evening. There was nothing negative about it. There was nothing that was discordant. There was nothing that pulled us away from our true nature. These are the beginnings of TV programming, and this is the bait part of the bait and hook weapon that is always used against us in programming. There were variety shows like the Carol Burnett show and Lawrence Welk's show, and the people there had talent. They had wonderful talent, and they were trained, and they took responsibility for their entertainment and for their work. And you knew that. You could feel it. It wasn't insulting, and it wasn't something that the powers that be, and I rarely use that term, had developed that was discordant to us. It absolutely made you feel better after you watched these variety shows and Lawrence Welk and saw the talent. Of course, we all look down on that now. There's no one that enjoys that. Very few of us enjoy that anymore. Of course, remember the Leave It to Beaver shows and Father Knows Best and Andy Griffith. Those were shows that are in alignment with our human nature. There was a lot of compassion shown to each other in these shows. There was family, real family, not the kind of family where the mother dumped the kids off for someone else to raise. It was an actual family in action. And those were shows that were part of the bait that were hooking us into the programming. where later on they would put the bad stuff in, the stuff that pulls us away from our nature, actual psychopathic programming. And of course, the Lone Ranger and Rawhide, all of these shows were easy on our human senses. For the most part, there was no bad behavior, and if there was bad behavior, it was clearly delineated as bad behavior, and it wasn't glorified. It didn't encourage you to do it. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite. It was really good behavior, really good entertainment and shows. And I almost said good programming, but I don't think any programming is good programming. I believe, and that's a lie in the middle of it, so I'm Xing that out. I know that it's better for us to live our lives from our choices than it is to exist and survive through programming. That is absolutely part of my foundational truth. And of course, the sports back then were about sportsmanship skills and team spirit and togetherness, which is a great, great human thing, to be part of something, to be connected, and to be excited, to be part of each other and part of an endeavor together. Of course, the best of human nature was embellished, was shown, the light was shown on the best of human nature then, the compassion and empathy and family love and family caring. So that was the beginning of our TV programming. What is it now? Well, comedy now has very little talent. Just because we laugh at them doesn't mean they're talented. Mostly, it is a display of cursing word after word after word. And almost, it seems, to show how vulgar you can be. Walking that line, and of course the line gets pushed further and further forward, and we are more and more inundated with programming against our nature. And if you want to see or think of the truth of this, think about how Desi and Lucy comedy was. You know, I Love Lucy, Desi and Lucy, and then think of Richard Pryor. See the difference between that time, how we were moved from clear, clean, uplifting comedy all the way down to base, pulling us into vulgarity and foulness and away from our true nature. And it has happened. And as we go through this, you will see it and you will be aware of it yourself. Well, that is programming. That is layer upon layer programming to pull us away from our true nature. Why? Because our true nature is where our power is. That is the threat to the predators that are the opposition to all biological life. Sex and the City. Now, I know there's probably some more recent ones, but we don't watch TV, so I don't know what the recent TV shows are. Sex and the City encourages casual sex, not relationship building, nothing about trust, nothing about self-respect or the understanding that there is sacred space and privacy. That is a big part of being a human being. Sacred space, that part that is around you, that is yours. And no one should enter that without some trust being built, and should not enter that in a disrespectful way. And that is how we should feel toward ourselves, because we can't be or give anything that we don't have. But this is teaching. These shows are teaching us that there is no need for self-respect, and there's no need for privacy, and there's no such thing as sacred space. It's just psychopathic. Manipulate people, use them up, toss them away, and go to the next one. And I'll tell you, this is very lonely when you get old. This kind of life, psychopaths are not happy people. The only time they even experience anything that would be close to happy is when they have just destroyed someone and their pleasure centers are charged and are lighted up. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Music. We went from talent and trained vocalists and voices to no talent and no training. And from music that soothed and encouraged human nature to have fun and to join in, to what we have now, which is discordant to the human being's vibration. It has to do with death and darkness and lies and lyrics that are degrading to humanity and actual death worship. I mean, I'm sure those of you that do listen to the news heard that recently, like, I don't know, the last couple of months, that our dictator-in-chief said that he was just proud that his daughters had people to look up to, like two musicians that constantly make satanic symbols and are very clearly blatant about being part of the opposition. But our dictator-in-chief is proud that that's who his daughters have to look up to. Isn't this proof of who is a psychopath and who is not, and what the signs are? They don't hide it any longer. They're out in the open because they feel like they think, and none of those things even fit, the feel or the think. But they have judged that we're really so programmed that even if they say it to our face, we will just accept it. And that's what they're doing right now. And we have to see this so we can break it. Our power is seeing and recognizing so we can work against it. Now, our young children start out with their programming in what we think is pretty innocent, the cartoons and the comics. And it's not true. The Roadrunners and the Bug Bunnies of old were very violent. You know, the constant hitting on the head and the blowing up pieces of dynamite, and everything was okay because even though that was violent, they came right back in the next scene. The beginnings of the virtual world, isn't it? The beginning of accepting the Matrix rather than real life experience. Of course, Batman is extremely dark and violent, and the children have the superheroes like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and the Transformers, and this is all to pull a person away from thinking that they are amazing and powerful beings, to there's always someone else that's bigger and better, and it's much better to be part machine than it is to be a human being. Never glorifying who and what we are in our true nature as human beings. That is the beginning. Young children sitting in front of cartoons, that is the beginning of the programming away from our true nature. And I'm telling you, this is real. I have studied it for years and years, and I'm old enough to have actually seen these cartoons. And I could not find the name of a few of the cartoons that I studied many years ago. But when I saw them, I could not believe it, because these beings look just like some of the beings that are not in this dimension at the moment. It won't be long till they will be here and will be visible. But they look just like them because I have traveled the dimensions and I've seen them. And our children are seeing them. And they are demonic and they are alien looking, but they are really nice. Oh, yes, they're friends to your children. And I was so mad when I first saw that. And I believe it was in the late 70s, to be honest. It may have been the early 80s. But I said, if those guys show up right now in physical form, in 3D, children will run up and think they know them. And they will literally be consumed, eaten by these horrific beings. But it's there in the cartoons. And as if that programming is not enough, the advertising during the programming tells our children and us as adults that we need to accessorize rather than live our lives. That the way to be happy is to get this, 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 and this, And in a little while, that won't do it. And so we'll need something else. But don't worry, there's going to be somebody there to provide that for you to consume. And what it does is that is the beginning of psychopathic behavior. Not treating people as if they are individuals, but treating them as if they're accessories to be manipulated. Like an accessory is a handbag for a lady, and you use it with certain outfits, and you put it up on the shelf, and then when you get another time when an outfit matches that, you use that. That's the way a psychopath does with people, and that's being taught that early. Instead of experiencing life, all you have to do is collect stuff, and then later on, it's collecting people. And it's just, you treat them just like you do your stuff. People are not to be consumed. People are to be respected and appreciated for what they are. Unique, rare individuals created with purpose and on purpose for a purpose. That's our children. Desensitizing us to violence and all crimes and suffering and bad behavior, betrayal, and the end justifies the means, any means to get what we want. That's what television teaches us. And the desensitization of all the violence and all of the crimes, and making the crimes seem fun and no responsibility. Rarely do they have to pay the price, and if they do, it's nothing really bad. Everything comes out okay, and that's the virtual world. Just like video games. You kill the guy, you turn the game off, you come back, you kill him again. Nothing happens. He comes right back the next game. That's not the way it is in real life. And yet you can talk to soldiers right now, real life soldiers, that will tell you that that video game desensitized them so that killing is much easier. This is all against our true nature of being human. And it is done on purpose, this programming, very detailed to the point that we accept it as natural and as our nature and the way the world is, and it isn't. We are functioning and existing in a virtual world. Of course, the violence is horrific. Until just the last few years, we'd only heard about real war, maybe in pictures in a magazine or something that was, not very real. But in the recent years, especially since the beginning of the Iraq War, we've watched the war in real time on television. I remember when the Iraq War was happening, and they were just so thrilled at how much they were bombing, and shock and awe was a great thing, and what we were doing. And what we were doing was murdering other human beings against our nature. But constantly seeing this desensitizes us to the pain, and again makes us think that the end justifies the means. And even the end is a lie. We don't know the truth about why we were there and what we were doing. The main thing we were doing in my book is we were murdering other human beings. And of course, there are violence in shows that desensitize us, like the series on the Civil War, where you see brother against brother, and one side having high ideals and making that sound really good, and the other side, oh, they're just horrible because they believed this and they did that. And it again justifies the use of any kind of violence. It says that the end justifies the mean because these people were bad for this reason or that reason. And this violence is shoved in our face, and it affects us. It affects how we feel about violence when it happens in our real world, even though we're not experiencing it now. But at some point we will, and we will not respond from our true nature. We will respond from a program. The sexual behavior on TV, little or no feelings. Go through as many people as possible. That's the game. And if there's no intention of a relationship, just love them and leave them. It's, as a matter of fact, in some schools, the guys do have games about how many girls they can get, or how many sexual liaisons they can go through, and how fast and how hard and harsh they can be. Again, no self-respect, no need for privacy, and no understanding of sacred space. That place around you that no one should enter unless they've earned your trust and your respect. There's nothing being taught in the programming about a fulfilling, trust-building relationship, something that you can have in real life, that you can experience your life with in a true relationship. Nope, it's a game. It's all a game. Well, my life and your life is not a game. It is real. And are we using up our life being programmed by these psychopaths? I say we are. And I'm trying to pull our intellect and our knowledge towards seeing this for what it is. And of course, we're seeing suffering people on shows, you know, poor people, hungry people, and refugees. And again, in real life, seeing people who are poor and hungry and having nowhere to go, no shelter, because somebody thought it was best to blow up their city and blow up their home, so they have no shelter and nowhere to be. That is totally inhumane. I don't care what you're trying to accomplish, and I don't care what your end result wants to be. This is inhumane, and we have been used to do this. We are the fuel behind this program, and we are the resource, and we can stop it. And once we see what's going on, that it is psychopathic behavior and it is inhumane, these people that call the wars don't go, and they are against humanity. And I don't care what face they're wearing today, they are against humanity. Of course, the suffering shows us on commercials about children living on trash dumps and landfills. This desensitizes us to the pain of people. Oh, yes, they act like they're doing great things. You know, that's part of the psychopath's behavior. They really care about you. They really care about this, whatever's going on. But they're getting into you and seeing where you're vulnerable so they can attack you, because psychopaths are predators. Desensitizing us to antisocial behavior against our human being true nature. Crimes of robbery and fraud and other crimes, even rape, is glorified. It's accepted. It's, well, the gangs do it, you know. And this is what our television programming is about. And the thing that just burns me up is they tell you it's programming. Our vocabulary has been so messed up and so placed in opposite terms that we see the word programming and we don't even register what that means. And we know what programming does. After repetition, it changes us. And that's what's happened to us. Of course, the married relationships are about lying and cheating and jokes. I remember, and like I say, we don't watch TV, so I don't have anything real close, but you all can think about it if you watch TV. You'll know what I'm talking about. Married with children. Love, not any. The marriage is more or less a joke, and the family is more or less a joke. And that's not the way it is. And I remember on that show, Married with Children, the family was ganging up against one person and pulling a really bad joke on them. There wasn't any true humanity there. There wasn't anything that had to do with uplifting a person to be more of who and what they are as a true human being. Rarely do you see a good person behaving in alignment with their true nature in the lead on a show, on a television programming, or in a movie. Thank you so much for being with me for this hour, and we're going to continue this. We have quite a bit more information to go. We're going to talk about Dr. Hare's 40-year study about psychopaths, and he does have a checklist that will help us spot a psychopath. So we have a lot more coming up, and I invite you to stay with us by becoming a member of Pure Momentum Network and joining us today, and also listening to the other hosts' second hours and having access to the archives and the special interviews.
We invite all our listeners to join us in the members section for the second hour of all our shows. We encourage you to click on the subscribe button, choose a membership type, pay with PayPal, and voila, you're a member. Enjoy all Pure Momentum Network material, the second hour of all talk shows, extra interviews, and all